Hello, friends of Japanese prints. My name is Dieter Manschura, but please call me just Dieter. It's much easier. I'm the manager and owner of the Artelino company. We sell Japanese art prints in weekly online auctions, and we also produce these videos, of course, to encourage you to bring Japanese prints closer to you. And today, I want to present this lovely woodblock print. It's by Hiroshige Utagawa, Hiroshige II, and it belongs to the genre of Yokohama-e. These are Japanese woodblock prints from around 1855 until 1865, 1870, showing foreigners in Japan, because at that time the common Japanese people had never seen foreigners before. And I want to connect it with by telling you a story, an incident from the history of the time, from 1862, an incident that happened in Japan with a group of British foreigners, and this incident, known as Richardson affair or Namamugi incident, it led to severe problems between the two nations, between the British Empire and Japan, and had led nearly to a full-scale war between the two nations. Let me introduce a little bit Hiroshige II, Hiroshige Utagawa. He was born in 1829 and he died in 1869. He began as a pupil and student of the great ukiyo-e master Ando Hiroshige. Ando Hiroshige was the master of landscape prints during the first half of the 19th century. And Ando Hiroshige later adopted his pupil, so he became an adopted son of Ando Hiroshige. And Ando Hiroshige had a daughter, and his adopted son and pupil later married his daughter, so he also became the son-in-law. Hiroshige II Utagawa, after the death of his master, he took over the studio, and he continued the printmaking style of his master and continued in the genre of landscape prints mainly. You see a few on our screen in the background. Well, these are from our trial archive, which is accessible for everyone, and these are a few examples of sold prints by Hiroshige II Utagawa. What are Yokohama-e? E is the Japanese word for image, and Yokohama is a city with an harbor in Japan. But Yokohama-e, that is the term for a specific genre of Japanese woodblock prints that show foreigners from roughly 1855 until so roughly 1870. But how come? Well, Japan was an isolated and completely excluded country since roughly 1600 until 1854, 1855, when an American fleet forced the opening of Japan for trade with outside. And that was the Treaty of Kanagawa that was concluded in 1855. And then other Western nations soon followed with similar treaties. And the Japanese had never seen foreigners before, and they had never seen, well, what they brought into the country, like trains and other strange objects that Japanese had never seen before, yeah? And at that time, woodblock prints, that was the media to get a message across. It was the media to print books, and it was the media to print and copy images, and it was a good business at that time. So quite a few of these ukiyo-e artists produced, created Yokohama-e. I now want to present you this woodblock print that we will show in one of our coming auctions a little bit more in detail. It's exceptional in my view. Well, the design is unusual and it shows a female rider, and look at the head. It shows a feathered head. Well, this is really strange, and this is now my personal opinion. I don't think that the foreigners in the enclave of Yokohama were running around with a head like that. My explanation is the following. Also, the artists who made these woodblock prints, they never saw at that time a foreigner in real, because they were restricted to a small area in Yokohama and in Nagasaki, but these artists had access to newspapers from outside Japan. And I assume they probably saw a photograph of American Indians and therefore designed it like this. But again, this is my personal explanation, and I don't know if it's really true. But a few other things that we can confirm. The print is dated 1860, and the publisher was Yoshida Yuzo. And by the way, this design is also in the collection of William Bigelow, well, the famous collector, and his collection is now hosted in the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. When I saw this lovely woodblock print, it reminded me of an incident, an affair from the Japanese history from this time, from 1862, and this is called the Richardson affair or Namamugi incident. What happened? Well, one by one. First, let me talk a little bit about the atmosphere in Japan at that time. There were these foreigners in this enclave of the harbor of Yokohama and of Nagasaki, and there was a hostile atmosphere in Japan towards these foreigners, especially conservative forces among the samurais. They opposed the presence of foreigners. Their slogans was "Expel the barbarians." Yeah, and this Treaty of Kanagawa, the Japanese regarded it as unfavorable for Japan. Well, you have to see this incident behind this background of hostility towards these foreigners. So what happened? It happened precisely on September 14th, 1862, when 3 Englishmen and a lady from the western Yokohama enclave, they went on an excursion ride on the old Tokaido. By the way, Japanese artists later made woodblock prints of this incident, and we don't have any of these prints currently in stock, but I want to show you one from Wikipedia. Okay, this just as a background, and there you see a clash, but let me continue. Well, this group of 4 riders, they went on the old Tokaido and they encountered a procession, a huge procession of the daimyo of Satsuma from the south of Japan on his way to Edo. And what happened now? To understand that, let me show an image what the old Tokaido looked like. Yeah, it was like this, and it was rather narrow. And now these 2 groups, the 4 riders, and this huge procession of the daimyo accompanied by many of his samurai, they encountered each other. And the Japanese expected the foreigners to get off their horses and possibly also bow. And what did the foreigners do? Well, it was a clash of cultural misunderstandings mixed with a very stupid and arrogant kind of white supremacy behavior of one of the Englishmen. His name was Charles Lennox Richardson. And on the side of the Japanese samurai, well, there was too much hot temper. What happened now, you see it on this old woodblock print. There, the Englishman in the middle. A fight, the samurais drew their sword and began to attack the Englishman. Richardson, he fell down, lying on the ground, and later he died. The rest of the party was partly wounded, but they could flee. Now, you could imagine this incident had roused an outcry among the British public. And nearly 1 year later, after a lot of diplomatic encounters and meetings and exchanging of notes, on August 15th, 1863, a small British expedition force, a naval force, bombarded Kagoshima, the capital of Satsuma province, with artillery shells for 2 days. Well, Kagoshima fortunately had been evacuated before, but 500 houses were destroyed. 3 Satsuma ships sank, 5 civilians died, but the Satsuma forces, they also had cannons, artillery, and they shot back, and they killed 11 British, including the captain and the commander of the British flagship. After 2 days, the British expedition fleet left, and from a political standpoint, none of the sides, neither Japan nor the British Empire, had an interest in escalation of this incident, and thus this Richardson affair ended with a demonstration, with this demonstration of saber rattling. That looks like a long video today, so let me conclude it, but not before giving you a literature tip, because there's a wonderful book about Yokohama-e. It's this one, Yokohama-e, Prints from 19th Century Japan, by the author is An Yonemura. And I made a little bit of research on the internet, checking if it's still available, because many of these books about Japanese prints are sold out today. And to my surprise, I found it on different places, including Amazon, but I found it on Abe Books with 22 books used for prices lower than $10. Well, this has nearly, pretty fat, has nearly 200 pages, is an excellent copy table book with a lot of lovely images. So this is really a steal. To make things clear, we are not connected with Abe Prints in any way. We don't sell books. We offer Japanese prints in weekly online auctions, and we are not interested in selling books. But I want to give you some good information, and when I find something that is a little bit of a cookie and I can give you a tip, I will do it. Well, enough for today, and thanks for your patience for this long video, and have a good week, and thank you. Goodbye.